Yo, yo, yo! Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another one of these short little rant review videos. As everyone might know, if you click this video, you do know, the Amazing Digital Circus premiered in theaters to show its last episode and the finale of the series. And just to warn you, I'm not gonna get into spoilers at all. If anything, if I do get into spoilers, maybe I'll just put a little timer up, but whatever. And now that the series is finally over, I thought I'd give like a short little quick consensus on how I feel about the series as a whole, and just also commend Glitch for how they've handled this series, and just talk about the series as a whole and mention its community and blah blah blah, you get the idea. Now, for what it's worth, I did actually enjoy the finale, and I'll tell you why that's a bit shocking. So before watching the finale, I had very mixed opinions about the show and how its narrative was handled and paced throughout the show. And while some of my critiques are still prevalent, I feel like they tackled everything that I had gripes with. The finale added a lot of much needed depth to the entire cast, and while not being like crazy, it was really touching and does close out the show in a really meaningful way. It does answer a lot of questions, and my only complaint about the show itself is that I just wish the show took more time to really dive into the mystery behind like the game's production itself and the overall world building beyond the digital circus, but nonetheless I did really enjoy the conclusion. I also think it's just fucking insane that like Luke and Kevin, Lord Witchagal, are people I watched growing up with SMG4 and all the stuff they would do around that. Like, I remember when Metarunner premiered, man. I was there for that. But, like, from machinima Nintendo 64 shitposting to a fucking theatrical release, the Lord Witchagal brothers have come so far. And even if the conclusion wasn't as good as it was, I just want to commend and celebrate them as someone who supported them for so long, as people who pioneered a new way to indulge and support indie projects and artists, and changing how this medium of storytelling is viewed worldwide. It really is just kind of insane. Now, the series itself. How would I rate this series? I'm just gonna give a general rating of out of 10. And I feel like the Amazing Digital Circus is a 6 out of 10, and I'm going to explain why. So, this show stops at nothing to show you bright and expressive imagery with its colorful cast of really weird characters. It attempts to explore a deep concept of stagnant life and what defines fulfillment in a life where you are robbed of freedom and individuality, and forming a sense of self as you adjust to a new life and the hardships it comes with. But that's kind of it. Throughout the show, a lot of time is devoted to mysteries and characters that never really get the proper devotion to seeing them through, or are flat out left up to interpretation, which I feel like with a show like this that's already really short isn't really that good of a decision. The show doesn't do a lot to properly explain its goal or even its main characters, as the answers to both of those and a lot of other small yet meaningful questions are answered through the creators' Tumblr Q&As behind the scenes. The show also throws around the words torment and torture when referring to its characters and their experience in the circus, yet it never really feels like that, you know, with beach episodes and candy kingdoms. However, a good chunk of these gripes are tackled and somewhat fixed in the show's endgame. Its final 2 episodes are definitely the strongest of the series, and it feels like in those episodes the stakes are finally raised and it actually feels like the characters are not having it. And characters are given proper room for just the right amount of depth to not feel bloated, and its influence from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream are the most prevalent. But despite all this, I do feel that the ending does close out the show in a meaningful way given how they handled it. And if anything, I kind of prefer it as opposed to them just fixing everything in the final moments. This series, like many others in this medium, would have absolutely benefited from longer runtime. I really don't know why every show now has to have 8 or 9 episodes. I feel like that really should end because it honestly does lead to just really weird pacing sometimes. And also just the show being way too short for its own good. And honestly, that's about it. I do think the show is good, and I think there are a lot, and I really think that the finale was handled really well. I'm gonna get into spoiler territory, and people who are affected by this can skip to this point in the video. A lot of people are complaining that this basically is just Jax the movie, and yeah, I guess. And I really do think that it was really sweet the way that they tackled everything with him. I think that Jax went from being a character that everyone thought was just a really cringy, edgy fucking loser to really tackling his character in a really mature and emotional way. And I really did enjoy how they did that. I enjoyed how in what everyone believed would have been their final moments, they actually all got a little closer. And again, I feel like my biggest thing while watching the show is that I feel like all of this should have happened way earlier, because again, part of what I said earlier about how words like torment and torture are thrown around a lot by characters in the series, it never really feels like that. Even for Pomni and Jax, it's main characters, which is really hard to realize when watching it because the show doesn't do a lot to separate them from the crowd other than episode 6. The show, again, it gives a lot of time to characters that don't even get like fully concise stories. Like, we never find out how Gangle or Zooble even wound up in the circus to begin with, or Ragatha. Like, we never found out what Bubble's whole deal was. We never found out why Caine was so interested in the office. There's a lot of things we still just don't really have answers to. And well, yes, some would argue that that's not that important, or that the show did kind of give us half-ass answers to that. It still just feels, again, I feel like if answers are found out through like behind-the-scenes Q&As on Tumblr, I feel like that's not the greatest thing. And I Had No Mouth and I Must Scream is one of my favorite science fiction novels of all time. And again, a part of the reason why I'm part of this ideology that the final 2 episodes are the strongest is because that is when it starts to like really peak into the point where it's like, oh, okay, now I can tell that it's inspired by that. But I also really thought that the ending was really sweet because instead of Caine just, I've always kind of said that like, oh, Caine's not probably dead because if he has a computer software and they're trying to delete him, if you try to delete a program from your computer, where does it go? The recycling bin. So obviously he's still alive somewhere. And if they're in a computer, then obviously then that little void area is like where stuff that's deleted would go. Also, if Caine was deleted, who the hell was keeping all the abstractions at bay? We never, that was never explored either. But I do think that the way that they handled Caine's redemption also was really sweet. I think him using his time to reflect on his actions and actually learn about their lives, and using that as a means to give everyone their own backstory and depth and really go into why these characters act this way, I thought that was really sweet. And more spoiler territory right here. Especially considering their jobs, like Pomni ending up there makes sense, even what they revealed about Jax being homeless. But again, they never actually go out of their way to explain how the fuck they ended up here. Especially considering, again, we also never find out what the importance of the office even was. Like, this is just, again, part of what I wished that the series did. I wish that the series used its time more to world building and just focusing more on some of the aspects outside of the circus that could have definitely added a lot more flavor into the mystery. But I do think that the highlight of this movie is Jax, unironically. I think that the way that his character arc was explored in this movie is fucking amazing. You know, it also really does make a lot of sense. I think that his like lashing out and his insecurities stemming from a lot of his like emotional insecurity as both what is supposed to be a man and how he interacts with his family and how he was treated. I think that was tackled really, really well. And it's also kind of makes sense because Gooseworks is a trans woman, and she said that Jax was like her self-insert. And I think it's really sweet how something like that was tackled in a show that's so popular like this, because I think that if there's anything a lot of mainstream media needs more, it's male characters who fall victim to the pressures of societal gender roles and who they're supposed to be based on where they come from, the relationships they have, or what have you. Also, just gonna throw this out there, this community is a plague. The Amazing Digital Circus community is known by at least me for being like the My Hero Academia quarantine fandom of like indie shows. I have never in my life seen people more parasocially attached to fictional characters, and it's a bit concerning because because this community and the way it reacts over literally everything has led to Gooseworks just stepping away and probably not indulging in this series anymore, and that is really heartbreaking. I've never seen a community drive their own creator away, and that makes me really sad because you can tell that she put a lot of love and care into this series. And what sucks is that, you know, unfortunately it did become way bigger than anyone could have imagined, but the behaviors and the way I've seen people talk about this series has really just made me just really feel bad for her, because no one deserves to feel like that. That's like my worst nightmare, frankly, to put all my effort into something and then eventually just get tired of it based on how it's received and talked about by everyone else. And I do hope that she is able to find love in pursuing her own works again, because she has done amazing things, and I'm always an advocate for fucking, especially nowadays, I'm always an advocate for fucking trans people making and doing amazing things. But that's actually about it. I think I'm going to stop here. There's a lot more that I could talk about, but in case you can't tell from the sound of my voice, I'm very tired. I'm about to head into work before recording this, and I have been working a lot, and I've been trying to balance everything. I work a 6-day work week next week, so that's fun. Thank you guys again for your continued support. And speaking of gender, I am probably non-binary, I think. I don't know. He, they. That's probably what is going to work for now. I don't really know how that's working out, but I'm still figuring that out for myself. So, if anything, yeah, I don't fucking know. I'm not one to care that much about labels anyway. I think labels are gay. I was just saying, in case you noticed the sudden change in my persona in the thumbnail of the video, with for a more androgynous design. Let me know what you guys think of that. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of the finale. Please be sure to keep spoilers away from people who have not seen the finale yet. Again, the finale premieres for free on YouTube on the 19th. And yeah, so I hope everyone has a great day, and I hope everyone continues to enjoy this amazing weather we have. And that's about it, everyone. Stay safe, love you all, and have a great day.